Yeah, we're just talking microphones. We're waiting for Johnny. Welcome everybody that's tuning in. Yeah, this is a Dockman U87 clone. It's a cheaper version of the Neumann. It's the same capsule, recreation, about half the price or a third of the price. Sounds really good. I wish I would have bought it sooner. I bought this one, Heiserman U47 clone, and I don't like it that much after a couple of years of using it. This one was way better immediately.
What do you like better about it?
Sounds better on my
Yeah.
voice. This one gets really crispy and harsh, and like the sibilance and like the the transients, especially if you like double tracking or like doubling or doing backing vocals, like they really start building up the frequencies, and it really can. It's hard to mitigate. The other one just sounds way smoother, like more of a vocal mic. This one's harsh. What are you working with, Brady? You got a warm,
Yeah, I got a warm 252.
big old. I have a large collection of large condensers at this point. I keep buying them. Do you
I
like it?
hardly have. I do. I hardly have any mics. I like this one. It's got the tube down at the bottom, and then I just have uh, a Shure SM81. And that's what I use on my guitar. Just this and that Shure. It sounds great.
Nice. What have you been working on, Brady? I've seen you've been
I
doing some posts on. You've been doing some acoustic guitar and some electric guitar.
Yeah, I recorded. I'm working on my solo EP. I'm doing some work on that, and then I just did some. I've been doing some radio advertising for the United Kingdom. So that has been super hilarious and just so. It's just funny to think about. There's somebody in the island of Jersey, which is it's near Ireland, and they're gonna hear dude's voice selling them some, windows and doors. I just think
Oh,
that's so.
you're doing the voiceover?
Yeah, yeah. No, the
Oh,
singing, like the singing jingle.
oh, the jingle, nice.
Can you give us a little taste of that, or is that
Yeah.
are you under NDA?
No, what was the one? It's like Medway windows and doors, and it's set to the, and it's set to a Johnny Cash tune. What's the one? Ring of Fire.
Wow, that's big licensing money right there.
Oh
You must
yeah, I
have
mean,
paid it.
no, it's like a rip off, but it's
They
it's
got to
just fun.
clear the publishing now, and
They
that's not
gotta
cheap.
clear. So it's just been it's so light that after I got over the original, like, oh man, who's like listening to this, it's actually pretty fun. It's just so different than being like serious and emotional of whatever else you're working on that's supposed to be important. So it's a fun little change.
Lance, what have you been working on? You took a little vacation, you said, but I know you're
So
working. I know
we
you got
booked,
something.
yeah, a vacation for us is one night,
I know.
2 days on the beach, one night, and it's back to work. But sometimes that reset isn't worth all the trouble. Because with a kid, it's like you spend half the day packing the car and then driving, and then you get there and you have to set everything up, and you're so exhausted, and then you make it to the beach just in time for the sunset.
It sounds like my trip to Florida. We were there.
And the next
Yeah.
day, yeah, you're so concerned about getting the baby down for a nap that you can't really plan anything. But anyway, yeah. So you went to Florida?
Yeah, I went to Florida in November around my birthday, and it was nice and cheap to get down there. It was a 3-hour flight, so real quick. But yeah, same thing. We had three nights, and by the third night, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go home tomorrow." This was long enough. And yeah, we went in the off season, but no, it was great because there wasn't a lot of people there. But it was warm the first couple days, and then got down about 47 degrees there. it does get cold down there sometimes in the winter. But we came back right in time for that amazing aurora borealis. You remember hearing about that in the news or anything in November? We've had coronal mass ejections coming at Earth for like the solar maximum over the last several months. And yeah, that was pretty cool. It was the first time my girls had ever seen the Northern Lights. First time I've ever seen them in, this far in southern Minnesota. So, I'm sure I got a good blast of solar radiation up there at 35,000 feet when we were coming back on the airplane. But yeah. Well, hey, I wanted to get together today to celebrate. We just released a song that, was kind of from the olden days. And I've been meaning to get Lance on here just to hang, man. Part of this is just for us to get a chance to hang out and do something fun because we rarely get time together. So thanks for joining us. Lance Conrad, everybody, coming from Southern California. And then we got Brady from Arizona. And John's having a little struggle session in the studio right now, hooking up his SM7. But it's cool that you saved a Humans Win background. So that brings back a lot of memories because that's usually where I would sit from that perspective right there on that built-in couch.
Yeah. I don't know exactly when this photo is from, but apparently I had NS10s and 2 little cubes on top. And and some Genelecs and the Mackeys. So I guess now it's funny because now I just use headphones. And don't use one pair of headphones, I'm good.
What headphones do you use now?
They're actually made by Shure, and they're Shure like 1858s or something like that. I forget the model exactly. But they're a really nice pair of open back mixing cans, and my mixes translate. That's all that matters.
Awesome. You don't think it's like worried about like missing the sub?
I think that the bigger problem is reverb.
I think we're getting some reverb right now.
Me?
You have your speakers on?
How about now?
Much better.
There you go.
Okay, wow. Thank you for having me, everybody.
You're loud, John.
Hey, John, you're pretty loud.
Okay.
Coming in hot, buddy.
Use your
How about
inside
now?
voice.
Any better?
No, there we go.
That's good.
Yeah?
Well, we got about 10 minutes left of the podcast. So.
Okay.
Just in time.
Lance was just telling us about his spiffy headphones.
Do tell me more.
Yeah. They're better than yours.
I don't doubt that.
Lance,
I have these. This is what Andrew Sheps uses, these cheap ones. They don't sound great. But that's
No,
what
those are very bright too. They're very thin,
Yes.
and bright, and
what's
your
good
mixes
enough
are
for
going to
Shep-
sound like mud.
It's good enough for Sheps, Lance. It's good enough for me.
Okay.
I got these open backs because who suggested these? Mabbit. He was like, you can spend, a quarter amount on the headphones compared to the monitor if you don't have a treated room, so you can get headphones for like whatever, a few $100 and then, you could spend thousands on the monitors, but they don't sound as great if you don't have like a proper room. Speaking of rooms though, Lance, is there anything that you've been working in so many studios, but is there anything that you miss about the space of Humans Win?
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's fun to make noise and to be able to bash on drums and stuff, but I really don't miss that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was something that I got out of my system for a few years. Maybe someday I'll miss it and I'll build a studio again. But for right now, The name of the game is speed and efficiency and minimalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's on the opposite side of that coin. John's maximizing a situation there. It looks nice, John. I like
It
the
does look nice.
monochromatic blue. I love the blue.
Thank you.
Great color
Thank you.
choice. Really makes that birch wood maple pop.
Yeah.
Did you have
I
those
do
up
li-
last time I was there?
Probably not.
I don't think
Fairly
so.
New addition. We had to plug the window. That was what we were waiting to do.
Window
So,
plugged.
yeah, I do like to bash drums, and I like to be inefficient.
That's
So
good.
that's kind of why I went the other direction.
Recording drums is always inefficient. There's no way around it.
Amen.
How does your room sound for drums, John? I can't wait to hear some live drum recordings from the room.
You'll have to come and find out for yourself, young man.
Please don't call it the kill room like Kevin Bowe did. That always was off-putting to me when recording in his studio. It was such a violent way to describe the drum room.
Yeah, I call it the live room.
There we go.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah, that's the opposite of kill. Yeah, it's like that's where John lives, live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else do we want to
I
talk
used to enjoy locking you into the basement room.
With the webcam looking in on me, it was
Yeah.
There was something masochistic about that basement. I can't quite put my finger on it. It was also a pain in the ass getting the drums up and down the stairs too when we wanted to bring our own kit in there. That was a kind of a scary little staircase there. It's a little sketch.
It was well before there was any code that required safe steps.
There was no code happening there. No, I mean,
No.
I remember. I'll share this. Maybe we could share a fun memory, and just take a little trip down memory lane for Humans Win and working with Lance. The first time I went to Humans Win, I was like, I really love the vibe, and it reminded me of some studios I'd been at in Portland. I don't know if it was the incense or the faint smell of marijuana or the of the Eastern decor. I think it was all put together. But I was like, this is where I want to record. And at the time, we were really looking. We had released a couple tunes, and Kisser was blowing up, and we really needed someone that understood our sound. And it took a little coercing to get Lance on board. I think he wanted to pawn us off onto Taylor at first. I don't know if he quite wanted to bother with us for whatever reason. Too cool for us, maybe. There's a couple of people that were too cool in Minneapolis to work with us. But Lance, you really helped us shape our studio sound and overall vibe of what the best parts of what we wanted to be, and really understood what we were trying to do, probably more than we did at the time.
I think back about that time, maybe the reason why I didn't want to work with you guys at first was because I had this idea in my head that you didn't exactly know what you wanted, or what you were doing. You were just sort of wandering around in the dark. I was like, I don't know if these guys have a strong vision or not, because I heard your songs and there was a lot of variety to them stylistically and whatever. But now I think back and I realize I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea, So I think we've all come a long way. I mean, it wasn't really that long ago, but it was when I had no gray hair in my beard. So I guess it was a few years ago. But yeah, I think we all cut our teeth in this, back in those days in the studio, day after day after day after week after month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember during one of the first times we all were. Well, the first thing I loved Humans when I wanted to meet you, and I did, I think, really briefly, right when I'm forgetting Carol won some contest at First Ave, and I was a huge fan of Billionaire. I thought that was such a cool jam, and then That's how I knew of Humans Win. But then I remember being with the band and like talking to you, and you asked, what'd you say? You said if you were going to be on a festival or on a tour, who would be on the festival? Like, who would you love to open for? And like, who do you think would be like a really great bill with you guys? And I thought that was such a cool question. And then when I started producing other people, I would ask the same thing. And it does bring up what they think their sound is and where they would like to go with that sound. Because if you hear, everybody hears things so differently, and what the artist is hearing and trying to get out of their songs, I thought that was just such a great approach.
Do you remember what the answer was, Brady, or what our answer was?
I think we said local natives, and then I think you said definitely at that time Twin Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all that I can really remember.
Your turn, John.
For a memory or for playing a festival?
Can you bring up your volume a little bit? Both. Come on, John. You got some memories in there.
Check 1,
There you
2.
go. That's better. I can hear you now.
Yeah, do a memory, John. Do a memory.
Good. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Lovechild, I remember when we recorded that one in the dungeon. That was the drum room. And I did a couple passes on it, and I'm like, I think I did everything I've got for it. And then each of you proceeded to go down and do a take on it. Which I thoroughly enjoyed because, usually I was in the dark chamber and you were all upstairs belittling me with the talkback mic off. And then I got a chance to look at the dungeon cam and kind of do my own scoffing.
I just remember howling with laughter of how terrible we all were at drumming. And it was
a couple of you could hold it together.
Yeah, who had the best takes? Do you remember? Do you recall?
I mean, I think Lance might have had the best take from what I recall.
Hey.
I believe our departed bass player, Anthony, may have had the
I think he had a good take.
loosest pocket.
I do remember
Brady, you would rush, of course, because you're the guitar player.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And Josh was the perfectionist, so we had to start the takeover 15 times.
Yeah.
I was all over the I was all over
way
the
more
fucking
takes
place.
than I did.
I was a sloppy mess. All over the damn place. No, speaking of all over the damn place, I think I still struggle as a songwriter unless we have an assignment for like production music or something. I still really have like a wide palette, I think, and one of my challenges is like narrowing it down, right? Unless I have from doing my own music. And I think I attribute that to two things, and maybe John and Brady have something to add to this. But one, I think, is just my taste in music, and then like growing up in the '90s was probably my formative years, listening to bands and records like, well, whether it was Pearl Jam or I guess the Pumpkins for sure, but a lot of those bands, or Stone Temple Pilots even, like they have an acoustic song with cellos, and then they'd have like a heavy, almost like a metal Black Sabbath song, and then they'd have like some pop songs with some like major seventh kind of chords. So I think that's where like my taste developed there. And then also being in a cover band, playing 100+ shows a year and playing everything from Johnny Cash to Grand Funk Railroad to, Modest Mouse. I think, we got used to playing like a wide variety of stuff. So that's kind of what I attribute that wide range. And I still think we have that. I think we have that on this record too. And I think my personal records are that way as well.
I think some of it comes down to then at that point was like we did have and do like all of us have opinions about favorite styles and tunes and songwriting, and then when you have three painters throwing different colors on the palette, that's kind of how it comes out. Yeah, I think it's cool.
I think Brady, you were coming from a different background as well as from me, like especially when we started doing music in high school. I think John and I we all have different music tastes, right? But I think it kind of lined up like John and I, were probably closer at that time, and then you kind of got on board, and then others didn't quite get the memo, or was like it was kind of a power struggle sometimes of like, what are we gonna be like? If one of us wants to be like Pink Floyd and one of us wants to be MGMT, that's where and that was Lance's job, right? So, do you remember? Were we easy to work with, Lance, or what's your memory on that?
I remember everyone was so easy to work with until Josh arrived at the studio, and then it suddenly.
Really? You're doing me dirty, huh, Lance?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think generally, I tried to just phase you all out and focus on the mix. No, but for real, I think you guys were really involved creatively, and you were always very respectful of one another's opinions. And so it was a very democratic process working on those tunes, which may have extended the amount of time it took to finish them significantly, because I was also very democratic. But what came out in the end was something that sounds very unique. It sounds like the combination of everybody's ideas and inputs, and it doesn't nothing sound or not one song sounds too similar to the next, because of that. And I like that. I appreciate records like that. I get very bored when bands start to sound sort of mono-stylistic.
Yeah, I think there's some
even bands that I really love. I've already heard this song a million times. Like Bjork has a hard time surprising me anymore, or Radiohead or whatever. I don't even like their most recent albums because they just kind of still sound like in the same. Like, give me surprise me again, And I think a lot of bands from the '90s used to do that. You would, even if you didn't like the song, track 7 or something buried later in the album was very strange and very different, but at first you kind of hate it. But then on the 10th listen of the album, you're like, I actually really like this song now, and I think it kind of gives a little bit more mileage to the records and to an artist and their repertoire if there's more variety.
I liked working with a producer because it gave us all a chance to be heard. It wasn't about like getting it done fast or whoever had the most time to put into the music that week. It kind of like leveled the playing field, so to speak, creatively. And one of my favorite memories and one of my favorite like upgrades to a demo or a song I'd written, Turning Tides, was when John and you spent a significant amount of time working on like the drum sound and the drum intro. And I think that's a really perfect example of something I would have never ever come up with on my own. That was really cool to see come to life in the studio, without much involvement from me. I think I was picking up some Chimborazo or something, or kind of eating some lunch during that whole section of the day. But yeah, I think we've spent at least a half a day on that. And yeah, it landed us.
We would spend a lot of time on what my friend would call the sonics, and the way everything sounds and the snare sound and all that kind of stuff, and just obsess about it all. Do you guys still do that with your new records? Do you feel like you still spend a lot of time obsessing about every little sound and guitar pedals?
No, I don't. I think
No.
that one thing that like I learned out of that process, which took a long time to like come around for me was that like you were saying, like the efficiency of a tune and like the vibe. I think that, Kisser was a very successful tune, and it was kind of like very lo-fi in how we recorded it and kind of cobbled it together. Most of it was done in Josh's apartment, and that was so successful. And I think that the it resonated just because it kept a vibe, and I think that I'm at a point where like trying to let go like it being so precious, and always trying to like move on and just enjoy it and then go, obviously it still has to sound good, but
Johnny, I saw you nodding. I know you got something.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely err on the side of spending too much time working sounds over. For me, that was learning that if I have a vision of what I want it to sound like, only I can execute it. And working with other mixers, if I, shipped things off that I thought were pointed in the right direction, they wouldn't always get it over the finish line for my vision. And so I just learned that I have to like do as much as I can on the pre-production and production end to like try to get it where I want it to be in the end. So yeah, at the same time, like Brady, I try to do my best and let go. And I think a decade ago, I had a harder time letting go than I do now. And so in that regard, there's been some good personal growth, but I still err on the side of probably spending a little too much time on the nitpicky stuff.
how about you, Mink?
Well, I think we've done a good job at getting a little, faster once everyone gets their ideas. I think it's being remote is hard to carve out the time because it's easy to put it off, especially when it's not as pressing, right? Like back in the day, we had an opportunity to strike while the iron's hot. Right now, we don't have anybody really pushing us for anything, right? So I think that's the biggest challenge now is just like carving out the time to put into what's more a passion project that does still have a good amount of fans and make us money. But all that to say is I think we've gotten better at not letting perfection get in the way of done, not letting perfect get in the way of moving forward and like learning and not looking at every track like it's got to be our grand opus, right? It needs to be as close to what we envisioned it or each envisioned it and then move on to the next one because there's always more tunes and there's always more opportunity to learn and move forward. So yeah. But every song that we've released, I could have spent another 3 years on.
Sure.
There's always a couple of things, whether it's my vocal take or a couple words or a note that's a little flat or like a snare drum or whatever. It's like, oh, you think it's good and then you release it, but then you wait like 3 years and you don't listen to it because you're tired of it, and then I listen back to it and then I go, holy shit, that was really ambitious. Especially with the stuff we've done with Lance, like I had to really take a step back from that for a while after playing it every day, rehearsing it every day to really appreciate the work that we put into it. That makes sense.
I think it's cool when I listen back to the stuff that we worked on with you, Lance, is it's fun to see or to hear kind of the thread of you as a musician and how that has kind of just been with you, kind of like the DNA of your track, of how you produce and how you're a composer, is because when I listen back to those tracks, there is this like urgency and a punchiness and just kind of an excitement that you put into those tracks. And that when I listen to your stuff now, of a wide range of all the stuff that you compose, the stuff that I get to hear, there is still this like excitement to even your like the track you just did with Angelica, there's still like an excitement and a punchiness, and I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
What plugin is
I
that,
guess-
Lance?
Which
It's a sausage fattener, man.
It's an inflator.
No, it's called Intensity, which is a real plugin that I actually really love. It does exactly what the name says, but if you use too much of it, it will destroy everything. It's too intense. I can't listen to this.
Are we still talking about plugins? Well, yeah, man. Well, I know we don't have a ton of time today, but maybe we could start to wrap things up. I know Brady's got somewhere to be, and I got a Musiversal session in a few minutes here. I don't know if I'll quite make it, but yeah, I'll finish with this. The thing I miss the most is like just having that time, being younger people, to be able to spend that much time working on music. It's great to turn things fast. It's great to make money, but man, there's something to being with your friends in a room and your coworkers, your partners, and really taking your time to make it something special. And I think that's getting lost these days with just the expediency of and availability of music making outside of the studio, being in the box. So that's the thing I miss the most. And the ritualistic hazing that happens when 4 or 5 guys are stuck in a studio for weeks on end.
Because I'm not there anymore, it is I did really enjoy just being in that area, like just being in Northeast and kind of going up there and hanging in the stew. I just remember how, and it still sticks with me today, the first time I was in that studio and really watching Lance work, how fast he was at editing. I was just blown away at how you could just chop up those tracks and like silence them. And then I had some dude in here that I was working with, and then he said the same thing. He was like, "Wow, you're so fast at editing." And I'm like, "Man, you should have seen Lance. He's so fast."
Mr. Quick Key over there.
It's like so fast.
Hot key.
Hot key.
That's why you got to let your kids play video games, man. That's where all my skills
it
come
was
from.
so good, man.
My parents hated it. They were always like, "Go outside, do something." No, I'm gonna make a career out of this someday. I didn't know how. It was just good. I was just destined to change the video game console to a Mac Studio.
That's so cool.
All right, John and Lance, any closing thoughts before we wrap today?
It's been wonderful to see everybody's beautiful faces. Thank you all for being here. Especially you, new daddy.
Good to see you too, John. And I wore this shirt just for you. It says, "I'm silently judging your mix."
I'm honored.
This was the best gift that Angelica ever got me. So thank her. But yeah, I think of you when I put this on. You're just sitting behind me over my shoulder.
Uh-huh. Yep. I mean, now when I'm in that boat, I'm like, I don't know how you put up with that day in and day out, because I can just like feel the quiet judgments going on.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks, gents. It was fun to laugh and chat with you guys for a little while today. Let's do it again
Lance,
sometime.
Wonderful
Yeah.
to see you, man. Thanks for taking the time.
This may have been the first time all 4 of us have been together in years, probably, right? Like,
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not let that happen to go too long again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks
Thanks for
Really
having
good
me.
to see you.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thanks for putting it together, Josh.
Bye.
Love you guys. See you soon.
Lots of love.
Yeah.